Admiral Min Jun Park stood at the observation deck of Luna Base, watching Earth rotate slowly in the darkness of space. The blue and white planet looked peaceful from here, but peace was about to end. In his hand, he held a data pad that would change everything. The message had arrived 3 hours ago through standard galactic channels. It was formal, cold, and threatening. The Galactic Hegemony Coalition was done watching Earth from the shadows. They wanted humanity to surrender. "Admiral, the Council is ready for your briefing," said Lieutenant So-Young Kim, as she entered the observation deck. She was young but smart, and Park trusted her judgment more than most senior officers. Park nodded and followed her to the main briefing room. 12 faces stared at him from the holographic display. Earth's military and political leaders scattered across the solar system. They all looked worried. "Mark, Ark. Ladies and gentlemen," Park began, "we have a problem. The Coalition has given us an ultimatum." He activated the main display. A star map appeared, showing the positions of 12 different alien species. Each one controlled vast areas of space, with thousands of worlds under their rule. Earth looked tiny by comparison. Just one small dot in an endless ocean of stars. High Counselor Zephyrian speaks for all 12 species. Park continued. They want us to accept what they call protective governance. In simple terms, they want to rule us. General He Jin Choi leaned forward from her position on Mars. "What happens if we refuse?" "Military action," Park replied. "They've been watching us for decades. They think we're weak and primitive. According to their intelligence reports, we have one fleet of outdated ships and barely understand space travel." Dr. So-Young Kim, Earth's chief strategist, spoke up from her office in Geneva. "They've been careful to only observe our public activities. Our space program looks basic because we wanted it to look basic." The room fell silent. Everyone knew the truth, but hearing it spoken aloud made it real. For 50 years, Earth had been playing a dangerous game. They had detected alien surveillance early and made a choice. Instead of trying to make contact or showing their true capabilities, they had chosen deception. "How long do we have?" asked President Chen from the Pacific Alliance. 72 hours, Park answered. "They expect our surrender, or they'll send their advance fleet to force our compliance." Commander Jae-Woo Lee joined the conversation from his ship, the Aegis Prime. "Sir, what are our official orders?" Park looked around the room, studying each face. These people had been preparing for this moment their entire careers. Some of them had given up normal lives to work in secret, building humanity's real defenses while the galaxy watched their public failures. "We activate Protocol 7, Park said quietly. "Full communication blackout, with all alien monitoring stations. To outside observers, it will look like we're panicking and cutting ourselves off from the galaxy." Dr. Kim smiled slightly. "But actually, we'll be coordinating our real response." "Exactly," Park confirmed. "Jae-Woo, prepare the first fleet for deployment. Make sure they look as desperate and cobbled together as possible." "Understood, sir. Should we use the old markings and outdated equipment covers?" "Everything. I want the Coalition to think we're throwing together our entire military in a hopeless last stand." The meeting continued for another hour. But the basic plan was simple. Earth would appear to panic, cut off communications, and deploy their only fleet in a desperate attempt to defend their home. The Coalition would see exactly what they expected: primitive humans making a futile gesture with obsolete technology. After the meeting ended, Park remained in the briefing room with Dr. Kim. She had stayed behind for a private conversation. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. "Once we start, there's no going back to the shadows." Park walked to the large window and looked out at Earth again. "We've been preparing for this day for 50 years. Every ship, every weapon, every tactic we've developed has been leading to this moment." "The first fleet is our oldest equipment," Kim reminded him. Even our worst ships are more advanced than anything the Coalition has seen. But they're still just the beginning. I know, Park replied. But they need to believe we're desperate. They need to think that 200 ships is everything we have. Kim pulled up her tablet and showed him the real numbers. Hidden throughout the solar system were 11 complete fleets, each more advanced than the last. The total count was staggering. But more important than numbers was technology. Humanity had spent decades developing weapons and systems that the galaxy thought were impossible. The quantum communication network is ready, Kim reported. All fleet commanders are standing by for your signal. Park nodded. In a few hours, Commander Lee would take the first fleet out to meet the Coalition's advance force. To any observer, it would look like Earth's desperate final stand. 200 human ships against 500 alien vessels, with no hope of victory. But Park knew something the Coalition didn't. The first fleet wasn't Earth's last hope. It was just the opening move in a game that had been planned for half a century. Send the message to all hidden bases, Park ordered. Begin final preparations. And make sure our surrender message sounds appropriately desperate. Kim smiled as she began typing. Should I mention that we're just simple humans who want peace? Perfect, Park replied. Let them think we're naive and helpless. It will make the next phase much more effective. As Kim worked, Park returned to the observation deck. Earth looked the same as always. But everything was about to change. For 50 years, humanity had hidden in plain sight, building their strength while appearing weak. Now, it was time to see if their patience had been worth it. In the distance, he could see the running lights of ships moving between Earth and Luna. To anyone watching, it would look like frantic military preparation. In reality, it was the beginning of the most carefully planned reveal in human history. The Coalition thought they were dealing with a primitive species that had gotten lucky with basic space travel. They were about to learn that humanity had been preparing for this conversation for decades, and that Earth's idea of being ready for war was very different from what they expected. Park smiled as he watched the first fleet begin to form up near Earth's moon. Let them come, he thought. Let them see what they think is our everything. And then, let them discover what we've really been building while they weren't paying attention. Commander Jae-woo Lee stood on the bridge of the Aegis Prime, watching his tactical display with calm focus. Around him, the First Fleet maintained formation as they moved through the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. 200 human ships, looking old and patched together, heading towards certain death. At least, that's what the Coalition advance force thought they were seeing. Sir, enemy fleet detected at bearing 27 Mark IV, reported his tactical officer. 500 ships. Mixed classes. They're not even trying to hide their approach. Lee nodded. Through the main view screen, he could see the distant glint of Coalition vessels. They moved in a loose formation that showed their confidence. Why worry about tactics when facing primitive humans? Open a channel to Admiral Park, Lee ordered. Park's face appeared on the communication screen, transmitted from Luna Base through their quantum link network. To outside observers, this would look like standard radio communication. In reality, it was instantaneous and impossible to intercept. Report, Commander, Park said. Coalition advance force is exactly where our intelligence predicted. 500 ships. Just like we expected. They're moving slowly. Probably to give us time to panic. Park smiled slightly. Are they close enough to scan our ships? Yes, sir. They should be getting readings that match our fake specifications. Old fusion drives, basic particle beam weapons, primitive shield generators, everything we've worked so hard to make look obsolete. Excellent. You may begin the engagement when ready. Understood, sir. All ships. This is Aegis Prime. Remember, we need to make this look difficult. Take hits, show damage, make them think we're barely surviving. But don't let any of their ships escape to report what really happened. Lee switched to the fleet-wide channel. All ships, engage targets. Make it look good, but end it quickly. The battle began exactly as the coalition expected. The human ships seemed to panic, breaking formation and scattering in different directions. Their weapons looked weak, and their movements appeared desperate. But something strange started happening almost immediately. The first coalition shots missed their targets by impossible margins. Human ships seemed to know exactly where enemy fire would be before it was even fired. They moved in perfect coordination, as if controlled by a single mind. "What's happening?" demanded Captain Thexara of the coalition flagship Dominion Spear. "Why can't we hit them?" "Sir, their evasion patterns are unusual," replied his tactical officer. "They're moving like they know our targeting solutions before we calculate them." What the coalition couldn't know was that every human ship was connected through quantum-linked computers that processed combat data faster than any individual could think. Each vessel knew what every other vessel was doing, creating a perfect coordination that looked like magic. The Aegis Prime demonstrated this perfectly. As 3 coalition destroyers focused their fire on Lee's ship, the vessel seemed to dance between the energy beams. It would shift position just enough to avoid critical damage, while still appearing to take hits. "Direct hit on our forward shields," Lee announced to his crew, though the shields hadn't actually been touched. "Show some sparks on the bridge and reduce our forward lighting." His crew activated special effects that made the bridge look damaged, while their real systems worked perfectly. To the coalition sensors, the Aegis Prime appeared to be barely surviving, struggling with system failures and damaged equipment. But then the human ships began to fight back. The weapons that emerged from the human vessels defied everything the coalition knew about technology. Beams of energy that seemed to bend space itself cut through advanced alien shielding like it was paper. Missiles that moved faster than light struck targets with impossible precision. "Impossible!" Captain Thexara shouted as his shields failed under what looked like primitive human weapons. "How are they penetrating our defenses?" The answer was 50 years of secret development. While the galaxy watched Earth struggle with basic spaceflight, human scientists had been working on technologies that most species would consider impossible. Dark matter manipulation, quantum field generators, and exotic matter weapons that existed partially in other dimensions. Commander Lee targeted the 3 coalition destroyers with his ship's main weapon. Something that appeared to be a simple particle beam, but was actually a focused stream of dark matter that could phase through normal shields and armor. The first destroyer simply vanished. One moment it was there, the next it was gone, leaving only empty space. "What happened to the Razor Edge?" Thexara demanded. "Sir, our sensors show." The second destroyer tried to retreat, but Lee's gunners had already locked onto it. The dark matter beam touched the ship's hull, and the entire vessel began to come apart at the molecular level. It looked like the ship was dissolving rather than exploding. Throughout the battle, similar scenes played out across the asteroid belt. Human ships that should have been destroyed were somehow surviving impossible odds. Weapons that looked primitive were cutting through the most advanced alien technology like it wasn't there. More disturbing was how the human ships moved. They flowed around enemy fire like water, anticipating every attack and responding with perfect timing. Individual human vessels would disappear from one location and instantly appear in another, using what looked like impossible micro-jumps through space. "Sir, we're being destroyed," reported Thexara's tactical officer. "We've lost 60% of our fleet, and we haven't managed to destroy a single human ship. How is this possible? Our intelligence said they were primitive." What Thexara couldn't know was that Earth's intelligence service had spent decades feeding false information to coalition observers. Every piece of technology the aliens had seen was carefully designed to look basic and outdated. Meanwhile, humanity's real capabilities had been developed in complete secrecy. The Aegis Prime finished destroying the third destroyer and turned toward the coalition flagship. Lee opened a communication channel, making sure his bridge still looked damaged and desperate. "Coalition vessel, this is Commander Lee of Earth's First Fleet. We don't want to fight, but we'll defend our home. Surrender now, and we'll let you leave. Captain Thexara stared at the human commander in disbelief. This primitive species was offering him mercy after destroying most of his fleet with impossible technology. Never, he shouted. The Coalition does not surrender to primitive species. Lee sighed and nodded to his weapons officer. Target their engines. Disable them. Don't destroy them. The Dominion Spear, pride of the Coalition's advance fleet, found itself crippled by weapons it couldn't understand, wielded by a species it had underestimated completely. 20 minutes after it began, the battle was over. The Coalition advance force was destroyed or disabled, while the human fleet appeared to have taken heavy damage but somehow survived an impossible fight. All ships, begin rescue operations, Lee ordered. Make sure the surviving Coalition crew sees our damage. Let them think we got lucky. As human ships moved to pick up alien survivors, Lee opened a private channel to Admiral Park. Mission accomplished, sir. They think we barely survived by luck and primitive determination. Excellent work, Commander. The main Coalition fleet should be here within 48 hours. Are you ready for Phase 2? Lee looked at his tactical display, showing his battered-looking ships rescuing enemy survivors with apparent kindness and mercy. Yes, sir. They'll report that Earth's entire fleet barely survived against their advance force. They'll bring everything they have. Quote, Good, Park replied. Because it's time to show them what we've really been building. Dr. So-Young Kim walked through the underground corridors of the Geneva Deep Research Facility, her footsteps echoing in the quiet halls. Above her, the world continued its normal life, unaware that beneath their feet lay the command center for humanity's greatest secret. For 50 years, Earth had been playing the most dangerous game in galactic history. Kim entered her private office and sat down at her desk, surrounded by screens showing data from across the solar system. The Coalition's main fleet would arrive soon, bringing 2,000 ships to crush what they thought was a desperate human resistance. They had no idea what they were really facing. She opened a sealed file marked Project Looking Glass, Historical Archive, and began reviewing the events that had led to this moment. The truth needed to be preserved, regardless of what happened in the coming battle. It had started 50 years ago, when Kim was a young scientist working at the Arecibo Radio Observatory. She had been studying deep space signals when she noticed something that shouldn't exist: organized radio transmissions coming from multiple star systems, all focused on Earth. The signals were sophisticated, clearly artificial, and they were watching humanity with scientific precision. Earth wasn't alone in the universe, and the neighbors had been studying them like animals in a zoo. Kim remembered the emergency meetings that followed her discovery. World leaders had gathered in secret to decide humanity's response. Some wanted to answer the signals immediately, hoping for peaceful contact. Others suggested hiding, reducing Earth's radio emissions to avoid further attention. But Dr. James Morrison, Kim's mentor, had proposed something completely different. If they're watching us, Morrison had said during that first classified briefing, we should control what they see. Let them observe a species that looks primitive and struggling while we secretly develop real capabilities. The idea had seemed impossible at first. How could an entire planet coordinate such a massive deception? But as intelligence reports confirmed the scope of alien surveillance, the strategy began to make sense. The aliens were studying humanity's technological development, military capabilities, and social organization. They were building a complete picture of Earth's strengths and weaknesses, probably preparing for eventual contact or conquest. But what if that picture was deliberately wrong? Kim activated another screen, showing the timeline of humanity's dual development. On one side was Earth's public progress, the space program that aliens could observe, with its obvious struggles and limited achievements. On the other side was the classified development that no outside observer ever saw. The public timeline looked normal for a species learning about space. Chemical rockets that barely reached orbit. Space stations that seemed primitive and temporary. Lunar missions that appeared to strain Earth's technological limits. Mars expeditions that looked like desperate attempts to expand with inadequate equipment. Every failure was real, but also deliberate. Every success was carefully limited to appear just advanced enough to seem natural, but primitive enough to look unthreatening. Meanwhile, the classified timeline told a completely different story. Within 5 years of detecting the alien signals, human scientists had achieved quantum entanglement communication. The breakthrough came from studying the alien transmission methods and reverse engineering principles that led to faster-than-light information transfer. Within 10 years, humanity had developed their first faster-than-light propulsion system. Not the obvious rocket technology that aliens could observe, but exotic matter drives that manipulated space-time itself. Within 20 years, Earth had established hidden bases throughout the solar system. What looked like mining operations on asteroids were actually weapons manufacturing facilities. What appeared to be research stations on gas giant moons were actually shipyards building fleets of advanced vessels. Kim pulled up construction records for the Jupiter facility. To external observers, it was a simple hydrogen fuel extraction operation. In reality, it was the largest shipyard humanity had ever built, capable of producing 100 advanced warships per year while maintaining the appearance of basic industrial activity. The deception required incredible coordination. Every human space mission had 2 components: the visible mission that aliens could study, and the hidden mission that accomplished real objectives. When humanity appeared to establish their first permanent base on Luna, aliens saw a small research facility struggling with basic life support. They didn't see the massive underground complex that served as the command center for Earth's expanding defense network. When humans seemed to barely reach Mars with primitive equipment, aliens observed simple geological surveys. They missed the quantum communication arrays being installed across the Martian surface, creating an instantaneous information network that connected every human facility in the solar system. The most impressive achievement was hiding the fleet construction. For 30 years, humanity had been building warships in locations where aliens would never think to look. Behind gas giant moons, inside asteroid mining operations, even in deep space, using mobile construction platforms that could disassemble and relocate when not in use. Kim accessed the fleet production records, still amazed by the numbers. 11 complete fleets, each representing a different generation of human technology. Over 8,000 ships total, all built in secret while maintaining the appearance that Earth could barely manage a few hundred primitive vessels. But ships were only part of the strategy. The real breakthrough was developing technologies that alien science considered impossible. Human weapons research had focused on exotic principles: dark matter manipulation, dimensional phase shifting, quantum field disruption. These weren't improvements on existing alien technology, but completely new approaches that would appear magical to civilizations limited by conventional physics. The defense network was equally advanced. Instead of building obvious fortifications that aliens could detect and target, humanity had created integrated systems that used natural objects as camouflage. Asteroids became weapons platforms. Comets became mobile bases. Even planets themselves were equipped with defensive systems hidden beneath their surfaces. Kim reviewed the intelligence reports that had guided their strategy. The alien surveillance network was comprehensive but predictable. They watched Earth's radio emissions, observed spacecraft movements, and studied industrial development patterns. But they never looked for activities that seemed beyond human capabilities. So humanity had hidden their real development behind impossible achievements. Advanced manufacturing, inside gas giant atmospheres, where no primitive species should be able to operate. Weapons testing in deep space locations that required faster-than-light travel to reach. Communications using quantum entanglement that most alien species hadn't discovered themselves. The aliens saw exactly what they expected to see: a species struggling with basic space technology, making slow progress with obvious limitations. But the real masterpiece was the operational security. 2 million humans had worked on classified projects over 5 decades, and not one security breach had revealed the truth to alien observers. Every person involved understood they were protecting not just Earth, but the entire strategy that would determine humanity's survival. Kim stood up and walked to her window, which showed a view of Earth's surface far above. In a few hours, the Coalition fleet would arrive, expecting to face a desperate, primitive species with a few damaged ships. Instead, they would discover that humanity had spent 50 years becoming the most advanced military civilization in local space, all while appearing weak and unthreatening to outside observation. The deception was almost over. Tomorrow, the galaxy would learn the truth about what humans were really capable of when they had time to prepare. High Counselor Zephyrian stood on the command bridge of the Coalition Dreadnought Supreme Authority, watching Earth grow larger through the main view screen. Behind him, the greatest military fleet ever assembled by the galactic powers moved in perfect formation. 2,000 ships representing the combined might of 12 advanced civilizations. Pathetic, Zephyrian muttered, observing the small blue planet ahead. How did such a primitive world think it could resist the Coalition? Ender. Boding. Ender. His tactical officer, a tall being from the crystalline hegemony, consulted his displays. Sir, we're detecting the same energy signatures as before. Approximately 200 human ships in defensive positions around their planet. They appear to have repaired the damage from their encounter with our advance fleet. 200 ships, Zephyrian laughed. They throw their entire military at our advance force, barely survive by luck, and now they think those same damaged vessels can face our main fleet? The Coalition had come prepared for overwhelming victory. Every ship in their fleet was equipped with the most advanced weapons and shields available to galactic civilization. Their smallest destroyer carried more firepower than Earth's largest vessel, or so their intelligence indicated. Sir, incoming transmission from the human fleet, reported the communications officer. Zephyrian waved dismissively. Put it through. Let's hear their surrender. Admiral Min-Jun Park appeared on the main screen, standing on the bridge of a ship that looked old and battle-damaged. Behind him, human crew members moved with what appeared to be barely controlled panic. High Counselor Zephyrian, Park said, his voice steady despite the apparent chaos around him. This is Admiral Park of Earth's Defense Force. We've prepared a demonstration for your fleet. A demonstration? Zephyrian almost choked with laughter. You mean a surrender ceremony, I assume? Your 200 ships are no match for our fleet. Park smiled slightly. You're absolutely right, Counselor. Our first fleet would be completely outmatched by your forces. Then you surrender? Not exactly, Park replied. You see, the first fleet isn't our only fleet. Before Zephyrian could respond, space around Earth began to change. The first sign was a shimmer near Luna, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Then, the shimmer solidified into ships. Hundreds of them, appearing from what had seemed like empty space. Contact, shouted the tactical officer. Multiple vessels decloaking near the Earth's moon. Design configuration, unknown. Count, 800 ships. Zephyrian stared at the tactical display in disbelief. These new ships looked nothing like the battered vessels of Earth's first fleet. They were sleek, obviously advanced, and moved with perfect precision. Second Fleet, assume formation, came Admiral Park's calm voice over the communication channel. But the revelations were just beginning. Behind Mars, space began to ripple and fold. What had appeared to be empty asteroid fields suddenly revealed themselves as camouflaged shipyards. Massive vessels emerged from hiding places that shouldn't have been able to conceal anything. Sir, massive energy signatures appearing throughout the system, reported the sensor operator, his voice rising with panic. I'm detecting. This can't be right. Report! Zephyrian demanded. Third, fourth, and fifth fleets, emerging from asteroid camouflage. Combined count, 2,400 ships. The coalition bridge fell silent. They were no longer looking at a desperate defense by a primitive species. They were watching a carefully coordinated military deployment by a civilization that had clearly been planning this moment for decades. Sixth Fleet. Rise from Saturn's shadow. Park's voice continued calmly. Behind Saturn's rings, what had appeared to be research stations began moving. Massive vessels that dwarfed anything in the coalition fleet began emerging from concealment behind the gas giant. Seventh and eighth fleets deploy from Jupiter system. Jupiter's moons had seemed empty except for basic mining operations. Now those mining operations revealed themselves as military bases, launching fleets of ships that moved with impossible grace and speed. Ninth and 10th fleets advance from outer system positions. From the direction of Uranus and Neptune, 2 more complete fleets appeared. These ships were even more advanced than the others, their hull designs suggesting technologies that the coalition didn't recognize. Zephyrian's tactical displays showed the impossible truth. Earth hadn't deployed 200 ships in a desperate last stand. They had deployed over 8,000 vessels in what was clearly a planned demonstration of overwhelming force. How? Zephyrian whispered. Our intelligence indicated they were barely space-capable. Admiral Park's image smiled. Your intelligence observed exactly what we wanted you to observe. Counselor, for 50 years, you've been watching our public space program, chemical rockets, basic orbital stations, primitive technology. You never saw our real development. The tactical officer was frantically updating his displays. Sir, energy readings from the human ships are impossible. Some of these vessels are generating power signatures that exceed our theoretical maximums. Each fleet represents a different generation of human technology, Park continued. The first fleet uses our oldest combat systems, the ships you barely defeated in the asteroid belt. The second fleet incorporates quantum mechanical improvements. The third through fifth fleets demonstrate our advances in exotic matter manipulation. As if to demonstrate, ships from the third fleet began moving in ways that defied physics. They disappeared from one location and instantly appeared in another, making tactical jumps that should have been impossible. The 6th through 8th fleets showcase our dimensional engineering capabilities, Park explained, as those vessels began to shimmer and phase in and out of normal space. But Admiral Park wasn't finished. 9th and 10th fleets employ our latest developments in space-time manipulation and dark matter weaponry. And finally, MC. Space near Pluto began to glow with an eerie light that hurt to look at directly. The 11th fleet, our most recent creation, demonstrates technologies that most species would consider indistinguishable from magic. From the outer edge of the solar system, a fleet of ships approached that seemed to bend reality around them. They moved faster than light, without using any recognizable drive system. They appeared to be partially transparent, as if they existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Zephyrian's legs gave out, and he collapsed into his command chair. His fleet of 2,000 ships, the pride of 12 galactic civilizations, was outnumbered 4-1 by a species they had thought was primitive. This is impossible, he whispered. How did you hide this from us? We didn't hide it, Park replied. We built it while you were watching. Every asteroid mining operation was also a shipyard. Every research station was also a weapons platform. Every space telescope was also a manufacturing facility. You observed our public failures while we secretly achieved things your civilizations haven't even attempted. The tactical displays showed the complete picture now. 11 human fleets, arranged in perfect formation around Earth, each one representing decades of technological advancement that the galaxy had never suspected. The total force was overwhelming not just in numbers, but in technological superiority. We've been protecting the galaxy for 30 years, Park continued. While you conquered primitive species, we defended them. While you expanded your territories, we ensured your enemies never got the chance to threaten you. We've been fighting in the shadows, so you could live in the light. Zephyrian stared at the tactical display, showing thousands of human ships, demonstrating impossible technologies. What do you want? Park's expression became serious. We want you to leave our system, Counselor. Return to your territories and spread the word that Earth is under humanity's protection. Any species that comes in peace will find welcome. Any that comes in conquest will find 11 fleets waiting. The message was clear. The species the coalition had planned to conquer was actually the guardian they had never known existed. High Counselor Zephyrian had commanded fleets for over a century. He had conquered 47 worlds and subjugated dozens of species. He had never experienced fear in battle. But as he stared at the tactical displays, showing 11 human fleets surrounding his forces, terror filled his chest. The coalition fleet that had seemed so overwhelming an hour ago now looked pitiful. 2,000 ships against over 8,000. And every scanner reading suggested the human vessels possessed technology that shouldn't exist. His weapons officers reported that they couldn't even understand how the human ships were generating their power signatures. Admiral Park, Zephyrian said, his voice barely steady. Your demonstration has been effective. What are your terms for our withdrawal? Admiral Minjun Park studied the alien leader's face through the communication link. After 50 years of careful planning, this moment had finally arrived. The choice between conquest and mercy that would define humanity's relationship with the galaxy. Counselor, before we discuss terms, there's something else you need to see. Park activated a new display on his command console. Dr. Kim, please share the Galactic Protection Archive with our guests. Dr. So-Young Kim's voice joined the communication from her facility on Earth. Hi, Counselor. We're transmitting data files to your fleet. These documents detail humanity's activities over the past 30 years. The files that appeared on Coalition screens told a story no one in the galaxy had suspected. For 3 decades, while the Coalition had been expanding their territories through conquest and subjugation, humanity had been conducting secret operations throughout local space. The first file showed the defense of Kepler 442b, a world the Coalition had never heard of. 3 years ago, an aggressive species called the Void Hunters had targeted the planet's primitive inhabitants for slavery. The file contained tactical recordings of human ships arriving without warning, destroying the Void Hunter fleet, and disappearing before the grateful aliens even knew who had saved them. We've been monitoring galactic activities since we discovered we weren't alone, Dr. Kim explained. Every time an advanced species targeted primitive worlds for conquest, our fleets responded. More files appeared. Dozens of them. Rescue operations during natural disasters. Defense missions against species the Coalition had never encountered. Humanitarian aid delivered to worlds suffering from plague or famine, with the human ships vanishing before anyone could identify them. The crystalline hegemony expansion into the Vega sector, Dr. Kim continued, addressing one of Zephyrian's allied species directly. You never reached those 12 worlds you planned to conquer because the species there had already been relocated to safety by human transport fleets. Commander Veltar of the Crystalline Forces checked his own records. Those 12 worlds had indeed been found empty when their fleets arrived. Intelligence had suggested the inhabitants had simply vanished, fleeing before the crystalline advance. Now he realized they had been evacuated by protectors they never knew existed. The Proxima incident, Dr. Kim added. When the Scorpion Empire deployed planet-killer weapons against the Proxima colonies, you found the weapons mysteriously malfunctioned. That wasn't malfunction. It was human intervention. High Counselor Zephyrian felt the universe reshaping itself around him. You're saying that humanity has been protecting the galaxy, while we thought you were primitive and newly space-capable? Not just protecting, Admiral Park replied. Nurturing. Every species the Coalition has encountered that seemed to develop unusually quickly received secret assistance from human technology transfer programs. Every plague that ended sooner than expected was treated with human medical interventions. Every natural disaster that caused less damage than predicted was mitigated by human engineering. The tactical displays showed the truth that changed everything. While the Coalition had been building an empire through military conquest, humanity had been building a network of protection that spanned hundreds of light years. Earth's hidden fleets hadn't been preparing to defend one world. They had been actively defending dozens of worlds. But why? Demanded Zephyrian. Why protect species you'd never met? Why spend resources defending civilizations that couldn't help you? Admiral Park was quiet for a moment. Because that's what you do when you have the power to help. Our species learned long ago that strength without compassion leads to tyranny. Technology without wisdom creates destruction. We chose to use our capabilities to protect rather than conquer. Commander Jaewoo Lee added his voice from the Aegis Prime. Every human fleet commander takes an oath to defend those who cannot defend themselves, to preserve life wherever possible, and to use force only when mercy fails. For 50 years, we've honored that oath in secret. General Haejin Choi joined the conversation from her command center. The Galaxy Protection Initiative involved over 2 million human military personnel operating in complete secrecy. Not one mission was conducted for territorial gain or resource acquisition. Every operation was purely defensive or humanitarian. Zephyrian studied his tactical displays again, but now the human fleets looked different. These weren't conquest forces preparing to destroy his fleet. They were protective forces that had been defending the galaxy while hiding their own existence. What happens now? He asked. You've revealed your true capabilities. The galaxy will know that Earth isn't a primitive world, but a guardian civilization. How does that change things? Dr. Kim answered from Earth. That depends on your choice, counselor. Humanity is tired of hiding. We're ready to step into the light and offer our protection openly. But we won't impose it on anyone. Admiral Park activated another display, showing a new star map. We're proposing the Galactic Protection Alliance, a voluntary association of species committed to defending primitive worlds from conquest, providing humanitarian aid during crises, and ensuring that technological advancement serves protection rather than domination. Any species that joins the alliance receives the protection of human fleets and access to our defensive technologies, Dr. Kim added. In return, they commit to using their own capabilities to protect rather than conquer. General Choi made the offer concrete. Your coalition could become a founding member. Instead of expanding through conquest, you could help us protect the species you've been targeting. Instead of building an empire, you could help build a shield around the innocent. The bridge of the supreme authority fell silent. Zephyrian realized he was facing the most important decision in galactic history. The Coalition could continue their path of conquest and face humanity's opposition, or they could join the civilization that had been protecting everyone else without asking for anything in return. And if we refuse? Zephyrian asked. Admiral Park's expression remained calm but resolute. Then you leave our system and spread the word that Earth is under humanity's protection. We won't attack your territories, but we'll continue defending the species you target for conquest. The difference is, now we'll do it openly. But if we accept, then tomorrow, the galaxy learns that the age of conquest is over and the age of protection has begun. 12 species with combined military capabilities working together to ensure that no primitive world faces the choice between surrender and destruction. Zephyrian looked at his tactical displays one more time, seeing 8,000 human ships that could have destroyed his fleet effortlessly, but chose instead to offer partnership. He thought about the Coalition's history of conquest, and then about humanity's secret history of protection. Admiral Park, he said slowly, the Coalition accepts your proposal. We join the Galactic Protection Alliance. Across the tactical displays, the confrontation transformed into cooperation. Human and coalition fleets began coordinating positions, turning from opposing forces into allied protectors. "Welcome to the Alliance, High Counselor." Admiral Park smiled. The galaxy is about to become a much safer place. As the fleets moved into joint formation around Earth, Dr. Kim made the final log entry of the 50-year deception. Today, humanity stopped hiding. Today, the galaxy gained protectors who've been working in secret for decades. Today, the greatest military force in local space revealed that their purpose was never conquest. It was always protection. One fleet had been enough to frighten them. 10 more had been enough to change everything.